The Heel to Face podcast is on the air. Some big news breaking today. Tampa officials have decided because of COVID rising in Florida that WrestleMania will be happening at the Thunderdome and not at Raymond James Stadium on April the 10th and 11th. Did you hear about this today, Brandon?
No. Wow. So what does that mean for you? I'm just really confused.
What that means for me is I got to get a great look of Brandon's face on this April Fool's Day. But we have a lot of things to talk about today on the Heel to Face podcast, including some things that we wish were April Fool's related. He's Brandon. I'm Jared. This is the Heel to Face podcast.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
The Heel to Face podcast is on the air. Brandon, he's still giggling the fact that he didn't catch that one here on this April Fool's Day edition of the Heel to Face podcast.
First, I'm gonna cut you off on this one. What a dick. I forgot about April Fool's. You son of a bitch.
There are a few things to talk about that I found out that are breaking today that I wish and I hope are April Fool's jokes. We'll start with what happened on Monday Night Raw, and this is what I hope is April Fool's, and that the Hurt Business is over, because to be honest with you, that was one of the best factions in wrestling. And I understand that MVP has come out this week and said it's not over in the sense that MVP and Bobby Lashley are still part of the Hurt Business, but I feel like the Hurt Business as a group, and Baron Corbin also is not a part of the Hurt Business, as was confirmed by MVP. But when Retribution broke up, that's fine, because we didn't care that began.
Because it sucked, yeah.
But the Hurt Business, one of the best factions going, and it's kind of funny, we look back on days of NWO where they're like, they had way too many people, and before Hurt Business could grow, they're already gone.
Yeah, okay, so when that happened, I was like, what happened? Like, I'm like confused. Like, I'm watching the show, and I'm like, well, what are we doing? Like, WWE, like, why are we doing this, like, before WrestleMania? Like, WrestleMania is like literally almost here. You're about to be leaving not too long in the distant future here. Why is this happening? I get that, yes, MVP and Bobby Lashley, yes, they're still a unit. But why are you getting rid of Cedric and Shelton Benjamin? Like, what is the deal here? Like, I think those guys need it. I think Cedric, and I think Shelton Benjamin, I think that was the perfect thing for them, because what do you do with them now that the Hurt Business, if that's the case, like they're not in the picture anymore, what do you do with those guys? Like, and here's the thing, and that's not a knock on either one of those guys, because as you know, we've talked about it off the air and had these conversations. These guys are both really good wrestlers. So, like, what do we do? What do we do with
And
these
what
guys?
was the point? And I feel like the breakup could have happened after WrestleMania, when you need new storylines to go forward. Bobby Lashley maybe faces those guys in a tag team match, Retribution, that kind of style.
Like the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania.
But heading in,
something.
Yeah, normally
or at WrestleMania. Who knows? Maybe
heading into WrestleMania, you need all hands on deck for some of these rivalries. Some of these matches we're getting, like Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. You need all hands on deck. You need Bobby Lashley, and you don't need them crumbling.
Well, especially
7
for 2
days
nights
before WrestleMania.
Well, here's the thing too. Like, you could have done it. Like, WWE, like, creative, like, you dropped the ball on this one, because the Hurt Business has probably been one of the few things that makes me want to watch Monday Night Raw lately, let's be honest. And here's the thing. Why the hell would you not do it maybe on WrestleMania, make a cool story out of it where, Shelton Benjamin or Cedric are jealous, quote unquote, of Bobby, and they cost him the title. Do something like that.
See, now we actually kind of see that coming. Now do we obviously see somebody coming out there and costing Bobby Lashley the title, because they've already
It's so
planted the
predictable
seeds?
now. It's predictable now.
Well, speaking of WWE dropping the ball, I think we've learned with the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony, I learned it this way, and now as the stories just keep on going, we learned probably going back to WrestleMania last year that the WWE, to me, doesn't really care. They say they care about fans, but when it comes to having fans in attendance, but to me, it feels like they're all hands on deck. If fans never attended a WWE show ever again, I think WWE would just forge forward and be like, all right, yeah. I mean, look at, for example, let's just go back to WrestleMania last year. All right. Yes, obviously the pandemic wouldn't have stopped it from, if it got postponed a month or something, but they didn't even, let's say, postpone it a week. They didn't even postpone it a few days to let them get their footing and kind of get their heads around how they were going to handle it. They literally were like, no, that's the day. We're going to keep going. We don't care. There was a fire yesterday. We're going. We're continuing. They didn't even think about postponing it a week or two, because maybe when this all started, I was talking with somebody today, when this all started, a lot of us thought this is going to last 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
For
maybe
sure,
a month.
sure.
I mean, this has never happened before. So how long could it be? When we get a snowstorm, we are saying, okay, well, how bad could a snowstorm be? A couple days?
Or the
a
lack
week?
thereof.
Yes.
Yeah, that we talked
Well, it is
about.
snowing here in Syracuse, New York, here on this Major League Baseball opening day, but they didn't even postpone it by an hour. They literally just still went forward. They didn't say, let's give it a minute. Let's give it some time to breathe. Let's not have a Raw next week. Let's talk about this. And where I'm going with this story is the fact that they're now doing more stuff. For example, some matches I was looking forward to at WrestleMania are now not happening at WrestleMania. They're happening the night before on SmackDown. Again, a SmackDown that no one's attending. In fact, a SmackDown that's being taped this week. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal will be on SmackDown this year. And so will the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match, which I haven't seen the participants, but I imagine it's the one that was being rumored for WrestleMania. That's got Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler defending the titles against the Mysterios, against the Street Profits. These are all matches. So there are now, when you add 20 names to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, Shinsuke, Jeff Hardy, Baron Corbin, and you add those 4 teams that are in the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, those are all people now that by attending WrestleMania, and remember, I'm not attending it for this isn't a 4-hour shrunken up just the best of the best. This is an 8-hour 2-day event. And yet I'm going to come home and say, I didn't see Shinsuke. I didn't see Jeff Hardy. I didn't see Baron Corbin. I didn't see the Mysterios.
Are you sure? Is that definite yet?
I mean, it could be April Fool's, but WWE has put it on a few different places. You know, and well, I guess we would know it's April Fool's once SmackDown tapings have taken place, and people have said that that didn't happen on the SmackDown tapings, but it didn't seem so much like an April Fool's. I mean, I guess it still, again, could be an April Fool's joke because of the fact that SmackDown is in front of no crowd. I'd imagine if SmackDown was in front of a crowd, it would be a bad April Fool's joke to tell people who've got tickets to something they're going to see something, and then to tell them, no, your event's not worthy of that.
There's no April Fool's joke here with the news that RVD is in the Hall of Fame. So
I mean, and by being in the Hall of Fame, we haven't seen it yet, but he's actually already in because, again, these are things that have already been taped.
Yeah.
Guys who could have headlined. I mean, think about WrestleMania in a few years. Let's say it's in Philadelphia. RVD could headline that.
In Philly? Absolutely. And here's the thing, Eric Bischoff? I mean, to me, that's a headliner in my book. I think what Eric Bischoff has done for the business, it's a damn shame, and I've said it on all the episodes of our show, that he is not getting his due in front of a live audience because
I mean, Kane the same.
Same thing. Yes, Kane. There's so many great wrestlers. I mean, Great Khali, same thing. He's done a lot for the for the India side of wrestling. So
Molly Holly.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
Beth
come
Phoenix
on.
gets this treatment to come back, and then Molly Holly, she gets to come back to do it in front of nobody.
Ridiculous.
I mean, that's why you want to come back. You want to come back because why these people don't quit wrestling or they don't like to retire is because that adrenaline rush of the live crowd. So Molly Holly, after going back to normal life for 10 years or so, quitting her teaching job or leaving her teaching job so she can come back and take this Hall of Fame, it's for that adrenaline rush of being in front of people. Muhammad Hassan, if he ever quits being a school teacher or a school principal here locally in Central New York, it's not going to be to perform wrestling in front of nobody. It would be because of the adrenaline that you get from the live crowd.
Yeah, sure.
That's the drug. The drug is the crowd. That's why Flair does it forever. That's why Undertaker did it forever. That's why they do it. So it's silly that you have Kane getting to come back one more time to do it in front of nobody.
Yeah, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Like
Here, and you know, if you wanted to have here would have been a perfect Hall of Fame this year, and it could have been a long Hall of Fame. It could have been 6 hours long, whatever. How about you induct all the people this year whom are passed away and are getting inducted by their relatives? Because when I've ever attended a Hall of Fame ceremony, cool, I like the British Bulldog, that's cool. I like Big Boss Man, but I'm not paying to see them mainly because they're not there. So I'm not really paying to see their relatives. It's a cool add-on to hear their son talk about it or their relatives talk about them. You
hear some stories, yeah.
Yes, but I'm not paying to see them. If it was all deceased people and just their relatives speaking on their behalf, I would have zero interest. So this year would be a great year, seeing there's no fans, to have all the wrestlers who can't be there, the Vaders, the British Bulldogs, you know, all those people, get them in because they can't be there anyways. And for the people who are healthy and alive, who are going to probably still be wrestling in 10 years, the RVDs, I feel Kane is not... You think he's not going to make an appearance again in the next 10 years? Probably. RVD wants to make another run. Eric Bischoff, I mean, I could see him coming out at AEW and doing something like becoming the GM or something. So these people are...
You never know.
These people aren't going to die or, you know, they're not elderly anytime soon. So why are we wasting...
Bischoff's kind of old, but I'm not saying not super old. Sorry, Bish.
But yeah, we're wasting these guys now. Like again, with the whole way I started this rant of WrestleMania, we're rushing things that don't need to be rushed. There is no timetable. RVD, we have the next 20 years to induct him. So there's no rush to induct him now. There's no rush to induct Kane. He's not going anywhere. You don't think he's going to be around next year when there's fans?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty high on RVD getting in. So I'm happy about it.
And no pun intended. But
yeah.
So yes, but I think RVD, Kane, all these people are worthy. But I guess my thing is they're worthy to be inducted in front of people. And what scares me is in 10 years down the road, when Roman Reigns is still wrestling, because we all know about wrestling. We saw The Undertaker. You wrestle for a long time. Right?
Yeah,
so Roman Reigns is, Seth Rollins is, Dean Ambrose is, all these people could very well be still wrestling in the year 2030. So are you going to induct them while they're still wrestling? Because
those guys will.
Here's the question. By 2030, obviously the people who haven't been inducted yet I can think of are The Rock. Who else? The Undertaker. So
that Undertaker. I would say Randy Orton, but Randy Orton just did on the Stone Cold's show, his Broken Skull Sessions, that he plans on wrestling for another decade at least.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, which are we? And I said this previous. Do we have so many people that are worthy of getting inducted that we have to rush them because we just have so many?
No, we don't.
No, we every year I wonder who are they even going to pick? How are they going to find 5 people? And then they find 10 people. And then next year I'm going to double down on that question. All right, now that you inducted 20 this year, who are you going to induct next year? Are you going
this might come off a little, I'm not trying to, poor, maybe insensitive, but why wouldn't you bring in the Hall of Famers who you think maybe their shelf life, where they will be still around in a certain time frame.
Yeah.
Let them get inducted first.
And which is stupid because people like Vader was alive when they didn't induct him. And now he's not alive. And and so they wasted having people like Vader.
I don't wish anything bad about anybody, but the reality is, the older you are, the more your clock's kind of ticking.
Here's a name I can think of, and it's not so much that he's older, but obviously he's been in some declining health. But here's a name, maybe while Molly Holly is still a school teacher and in her 40s, and while you have Kane still being a mayor and RVD looking to make another run, how about you induct somebody who's actually even more qualified than all of them, who's sitting home, Lex Luger.
Hello.
Did we forget he was the face of 1993 and 1994 WWF? He was never officially a champion, but he was the guy who fought Yokozuna at SummerSlam. He was in the main event of WrestleMania 10. The Lex Express drove around the country.
Yeah.
This guy is actually, if the Hall of Fame had a stringent category, like if it actually meant something to be in the Hall of Fame, like where the RVDs essentially didn't make the Hall of Fame and the Molly Hollys didn't make the Hall of Fame,
sure,
he would still be worthy. He is, if the Hall of Fame was like the baseball Hall of Fame, he would actually be somebody who would make that because he had that legitimate of a career.
Well, let's be honest. Lex should definitely be in. And let's be honest. Yes, his health isn't in the greatest of conditions. But I will say, he is a great follow on social media. He's a very inspirational guy. So imagine that speech, how inspirational that would be. That'd be fantastic.
Again, we're taking people. Lex Luger could have been in the Hall of Fame of 2004, and yet we still don't have him in 2021.
Well, what are we doing?
But yet we're putting in people who aren't even done wrestling. RVD is not done wrestling, and we're putting him in. But Lex Luger, whose shelf life is a lot shorter than RVD's because he's not returning to the ring anytime soon.
Yeah, no.
You want RVD back in the WWE ring? He'd gladly be at WrestleMania in a 6-man ladder match.
Yeah, he'll be doing the 5-star frog splash off a ladder. He's in. That's just how RVD is.
So speaking of people who are still wrestling and not done yet, another person who will be in the Hall of Fame, the person who's the tag team partner of somebody who's in the Hall of Fame now and main eventing WrestleMania, Christian. He made his AEW debut last night. And you got to admit, they gave him a pretty formidable foe. WWE would probably give him a jobber. Frankie Kazarian and Christian had to go at it for his debut. Yeah, it was a good match.
I enjoyed that match. Frankie and Christian, they've known each other a very long time. They've tussled a few times in all the 20 years or so relationship that they have. And I will tell you right now, not to do anything, not to slight Christian by any way, but Frankie Kazarian, that dude should be a title holder somewhere. Frankie Kazarian is one of the best wrestlers around. I don't think he's one of the most underrated wrestlers. And you name the promotion. Frankie, I don't think gets enough due for what he does. But back to Christian, I think that was a good match.
He looked good.
He looked good. Who better than have him in a match with Frankie? Frankie's one of those guys. He'll make anybody look halfway decent. And I'm not saying Christian's not good, but Christian hasn't been really in the ring the better part of a decade. So overall, I thought it was a good match, a nice way to kick off Dynamite this week. So I thought kudos to those boys and AEW for putting on a good show for us.
So if you live we want to talk about this last week, but if you live in the United States, you're probably reaching the end of your rope as today's April 1st, and that means you only have a few more days at best to enjoy the WWE Network the way it was. Yeah. Because, well, let's just say they need, and I saw this earlier on social media, there needs to be a return. I don't remember if you remember Don Callis when he was Cyrus the Virus, the face of TNN, or TNN in ECW. Obviously, you remember Right to Censor.
Yes.
So what perfect faction would there be? Another Right to Censor faction? Call them Peacock. Because they are coming in to be the FCC of the WWE. So far, what they've removed is a complete WrestleMania 8 match between Roddy Piper and Bad News Brown, I think it was Bad News Brown, right?
Yes.
Where he painted half of his body black. It's just hard to believe that Bad News Brown lasted till WrestleMania 8. It's just hard to be like, wow, he was around that long? Because I remember him from like WrestleMania 4.
And here's the thing.
I didn't realize he was still kicking around.
Cancel culture strikes again. Like, listen, okay, it's everybody gets offended by everything these days. I'm sorry, but it's a match. It's a freaking match on a pay-per-view. It's all for show. Everyone says, everyone that's not a wrestling fan, like, oh, that stuff's fake, right? Then why do you care so much? It's all for a performance. Peacock, you need to put that stuff on. That's ridiculous.
I guess my thing is too, and same with the Nation of Domination skit or DX where they dressed up as a Nation of Domination, that's been removed. I guess here's my thing. If you want to put some sort of warnings on this stuff, that's fine.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I guess that's the appropriate way to go.
Thank you.
Is you put some sort of warning on it. You maybe, because they did that even WWE. We talked WWE Network a couple of years ago. I remember they made a few events TV 14 that were maybe at the time only TV PG. But in today's culture,
they were considered edgy back.
Yeah, they were considered not edgy back then, but now they're considered more edgy, which is kind of strange.
Just put a disclaimer up, just like back in the day when you buy a CD, it says parental advisory. Like, why can't you just put a little disclaimer up that says, may not be suitable for certain?
Because
viewers.
all you're doing there, all you're doing by doing this is you are making things that went out of business essentially before the WWE Network come back and rise again. I mean, people are joking about the fact that they think DVD sales of old WWE events and Coliseum videos are going to be back on the rise, because I used to use a wrestling torrent website, which literally had every wrestling event under the sun, from camcordered versions of Monday Night Raw to something I uploaded on our channel just the other day, a WCW Thunder that was pre-taped here in Syracuse and had some matches that didn't have commentary and then were added to a Thunder the following week. So they were like taped before a live Thunder and then added to a taped Thunder the following week. That was cool. That was not aired on television. That was something that like a raw feed of the show from WCW satellites.
Yeah.
That's cool stuff. You could find it. But for the most part, I kind of steered away because the network had everything and it's got it at a click of a button. I don't have to go searching for it. I don't got to download it. I can watch it.
Have to.
And now it's going to bring it all back because WrestleMania 8 still exists. Now it's just going to make the Coliseum video of it worth more money on eBay because it's the uncut, uncensored, full version of the show.
Or I'm just going to, throw it out there to, to our followers out here. VPNs. I mean, VPNs do wonders. I'm just saying.
I guess my issue with the VPN, because I've heard about that's a virtual private network, which you can say you live in England. My account, though, is tied to my name and my credit card. So it canceled my account. Like, I can't keep the WWE Network going and then say
I did see that.
Yeah, so it's actually saying your account is not active anymore. You actually have to have a United States credit card and United States address to sign up.
Friends of the UK, we can talk, privately, Venmo, we can do something.
Get your password and use your accounts and then use a VPN to say. Because that's the thing. I don't think that the WWE Network is working or not working based off of your home address. I think it's based off of your personal information, meaning that if you have an American WWE account and you tried to use it in England, it probably wouldn't work because it's not because it's not like the baseball package or the football package where it tells your location. It's based off of like you downloaded it off Google Play, right? So you downloaded the WWE Network app off of Google Play or Apple, whichever service, and those are both American services. So that's kind of how they know. They know if you're watching it in America or you're watching it in Canada, because if you downloaded it off, your Rogers, Play Store, or you're watching it on Sportsnet or your Bell Media,
like Sky Sports.
Yeah, then that's how. Yeah, so the fact that the WWE Network app is essentially probably going to be removed from your American services. Like I said, my account, it doesn't say that like. we know you're not in America. We just know you're American because
I did see like
your information.
It says like your subscription will end.
Yes,
on the
which
payment.
Moving on to the next topic, this week I watched Beth Phoenix Icons, the second episode of the Icon series. A great episode, especially those locally. Before we get into the show, I will say my WWE subscription actually ended halfway through the show. It was kind of I've never seen that happen before. I was watching my WWE subscription goes till April 4th, but slowly but surely they're taking things off one at a time. So, for example, I was watching the Beth Phoenix Icons thing about halfway through, and now said, "You want to watch the rest of this? You got to go over to Peacock." And it took it off the network.
Wow. So I guess that means I got to get on Peacock because I haven't done it yet.
Because I watched about half of it, and then all of a sudden I got an error like I lost internet, and then I tried to reload it, and it says this is no longer available on WWE Network. Go to Peacock and watch it.
Yeah, but I think there's a promo code right now for $250 a month.
Yeah, so I do have Peacock. I did sign up yesterday. I haven't exactly explored it yet, but. To the Beth Phoenix Icons, again, because we're a Central New York podcast, talk about things local, it is a great show to watch because of her local ties. A guy we interviewed right here on Heel to Face, Andy Milanakis.
Andy, yes.
He had some contributions to it because of the fact he works in local media in Elmira, where Beth Phoenix is from.
Yes.
There was all sorts of cool stories about Beth Phoenix, how her family couldn't afford to go to WWE. She had to fill out a coloring contest in the Elmira newspaper, which won her some tickets to go see a Monday Night Raw from Binghamton, New York at the Broome County Arena. And there's some clips in it that shows her like snagging a picture of Shawn Michaels from her front row seat when she was like 15 years old.
Oh, cool.
She was the first woman on her all-boys wrestling team at Elmira Notre Dame High School. She then went to college upstate here as well at Canisius in Buffalo. So she obviously hit up all the local Buffalo, Rochester, Southern Canada, independent scenes, Jamestown, Olean, Batavia. She hit up all those circuits while she was going to Canisius College.
Yep.
And then obviously when she went to OVW, finding out that when she was in OVW, while she was under, I guess, WWE's tutelage, she wasn't still, I guess, in WWE. She actually had to pay for her training while she was in OVW and was not getting any money. While she was there with Randy Orton's and John Cena's and Batista's, she was actually like paying to be a part of that, working at Perkins during the day and doing OVW at night.
Just to get by.
Getting home from Perkins, she was told she got the call to make it to the WWE. And it's a shame that she quit right before things got good, because that's kind of the reason why she did quit, because she's a legit women's wrestler.
Yeah, she's
and
good.
Obviously she would have fit right in with everyone nowadays. That's why she fits right in at the Royal Rumbles when she comes back and all that other stuff. And it stinks because she quit right before that Evolution, and she just was like, I'm sick of getting eliminated in a Santa's Little Helper lingerie match. It's just not me.
You can't blame her. I mean,
and then a couple of years later, it would have been the WWE of her dreams, because that's what it is now. It's women's titles mean stuff. Obviously, Bianca and Sasha at WrestleMania could potentially mean people are saying that should main event. When Beth Phoenix was there, no one was saying that.
I'll say this. I mean, Beth's done a lot of great things, and she still does great things for NXT these days on commentary. Mm-hmm. And then we see her in occasional matches. I mean, she's a mom, mom of two, and she still comes back and kicks some ass.
She's only about 40 years old, so she's. We might even see. We saw her at WrestleMania 35 teaming up with Natalia. Maybe we'll see her again in some sort of gimmick. There's rumors because obviously all this stuff is being taped before WrestleMania week. Trish Stratus has dropped hints she's going to be involved somehow at WrestleMania. We'll see where that leads us to.
I got before you finish with that. Shout out to Andy, a friend of the program, on that. Great. I saw that she retweeted him and stuff, so that was cool. Good stuff.
Yes, I mean, I think he's interviewed her a few times. Obviously, being a local Elmira, and obviously all her ties during the show, talking about just like anybody else. It's crazy when you see these things, and it's. You relate so much, her family was too poor to buy tickets to a Monday Night Raw, which at the time tickets were probably $15 because it was the 95, 96 Monday Night Raws of the days when they like taped a bunch of them ahead of time. And she won a coloring contest to win some tickets in the local newspaper in Binghamton, New York. She didn't grow up in Manhattan. She didn't go to shows at MSG. She wasn't in LA trying to go down to Staples Center. She grew up in middle of nowhere, New York, trying to go to a Monday Night Raw when they come to Binghamton, New York, which if you're outside of Central New York, it's a nowhere. It's a city that has a AA team, and boy, they're lucky to have it. I mean, that's the kind of city that is.
It's not a big city.
Yeah, and Canisius College, that's not Syracuse University. That's not Yale. That's not, Penn State. That's another, it's a private school, but another local, regular college where you never expect somebody to be going there to become the big stars that they do.
Yeah, it's true.
So moving on, a person who left WWE this week. Last week, or a few weeks ago, I think we talked about the heat they might have backstage. They said there was no heat, but they officially got offered full-time position at ESPN. That's Charlie Caruso. You'll now know her as Charlie Arnault. That's her real name, and that's what she'll be using when she's working full-time at ESPN. So we won't be seeing her anymore. She's okay. I don't think she's one of those people like Kathy Kelly or Renee Young, who when they left, it felt like a bigger deal. It felt like they were more of a part. I mean, Charlie Caruso, yeah, she was on every week, but I just don't feel like she was just there. I feel like that could have been filled by a lot of different people. She was good at her job, but it wasn't. I feel like Renee Young really like added something to wrestling.
Yeah, it was a different.
Even Kathy Kelly added something that felt like, things are going to be different without her around. It just loses that vibe. But I feel like if Mackenzie steps into the role that Charlie Caruso leaves, I think we'll be just fine.
And I agree. I mean, good luck to her at ESPN. I mean.
Yeah.
I don't watch any of the shows she's on ESPN, but good luck to her there.
So WrestleMania has officially come out with their own app, which normally I wouldn't download this crap, but it actually has to do with the people that are going to WrestleMania. So they came out with a new app that debuted today, April the 1st. I can prepay for parking. I got my ticket on there. I can buy souvenirs and have them. I can get the souvenirs at the store without showing up, which makes me think that the store is probably going to be non-existent down there or very small. The fact that they're going to encourage people to prepay for their souvenirs. I can buy my mask ahead of time for $15. Isn't that exciting? Hopefully they have a better choice of mask as time goes on because it's a pretty plain mask. And the mask they're giving away is not a WrestleMania branded mask. So I think for souvenir purposes, I might buy a mask because why not? What better way to commemorate the COVID WrestleMania than having a WrestleMania mask? It goes right with it. I mean, a T-shirt works for all occasions.
And we'll see it in the background if we ever get shut down again when you're recording from the house.
Yes. So it's the worthy souvenir. One time when I went to WrestleMania in Orlando a couple years ago, instead of buying a T-shirt, I bought socks because I was wearing shorts and they were like knee-high socks. And I said, everyone's going to be wearing the WrestleMania T-shirt. I'm going to wear the WrestleMania socks. So I thought that was a cooler souvenir. Now, would I bought the WrestleMania socks when I went to New York City and they were under my pants? No, you can't see them then. Yeah. But again, why buy a mask if we didn't have to wear a mask? No. But because we have to wear a mask anyways, why not wear a more unique T-shirt?
And you'll never forget it.
Yeah, and then there you go. That's why it's the perfect souvenir to go with that. That's what I think. But the WrestleMania app also has, I can prepay if I want, to buy $40 parking, and that's per night. So that'd be $80 worth of parking to park at Raymond James Stadium. So I'll let you know ahead of time. We won't be doing any films from Raymond James Stadium's main parking lot, at least by my car. I might be doing it in the parking lot, but I'll be parked down the street. $80 for a weekend full of parking. I mean, that's a night in the hotel right there.
Yeah, hard pass.
Just on the parking.
Yeah, hard pass.
I did pay $40 to park at WrestleMania last time around. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Also, it was one night, so it's $40 once. And MetLife Stadium, if you're familiar with it, doesn't really give you too many options of parking. It's literally out in the middle of nowhere. But Raymond James Stadium is pretty near a city, and it's also going to be nice outside.
And it's kind of like what you did in Dallas. So
yeah, we talked about that, and it's nice outside, so I can park a half a mile down the street. And there's a residential neighborhood actually right down the street, so I can park in the residential neighborhood. And if it's a half an hour walk, it's going to be 85 degrees. So who cares?
Exactly, and yeah, it's going to be beautiful weather. You're fine.
Road Dogg is out of the hospital last week after he suffered a heart attack, or what seems to be a heart attack. He seems to be doing all right. He's out of the hospital and back home, which is good.
Good to hear.
Good to know that he'll be spending WrestleMania weekend, hopefully in Tampa, for WrestleMania, which is good. That would have been hard, I guess, for a lot of people, especially if that was hanging over their heads WrestleMania weekend, not knowing the status of Road Dogg,
Thank God he's
knowing
okay.
all he does in the back. Hopefully, maybe he'll come out at WrestleMania fresh off his heart attack and give us one of his DX.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a little Road Dogg action.
Little Road Dogg action.
I'm in. Let's do it. But thankfully, in all seriousness, thankfully he's okay. When I initially heard the news, I was nervous because he was part of my childhood. So I'm just glad he's doing okay. He's hopefully we'll see him on TV soon.
And this week on the Kurt Angle podcast, he announced that he had some chances to join the UFC back in the day, but never did. He learned pretty good from Daniel Puder, if you remember from that Tough Enough experience where Daniel Puder forgot that wrestling was scripted for a minute. And I guess he helped Kurt Angle in a way because he really showed Kurt Angle that maybe he wasn't exactly ready for UFC when this guy who was a mixed martial artist came into his ring and kind of messed him up a little bit and kind of made him mad. Realize, that's the mentality of an MMA fighter, and that would be your fate if you join the MMA. Kurt Angle said that mixed with some other nagging injuries he had at the time. He was offered it twice. He thought about it once when the nagging injuries happened, and then in 2006, after he left WWE, they actually made him an offer, but he had just signed with TNA, and because he didn't want to go back on TNA's offer and he wanted to fulfill his commitment, he asked if he could do both. Dana White said no, he'd have to be in UFC only. So he never joined UFC, and he's still happy that he never did because, well, I mean, who knows if how long his career would have lasted and if it would have made it so that his wrestling career
and hopefully
wouldn't have went on.
And maybe in this case, it maybe not be a CM Punk scenario.
And to be honest with you, where Kurt Angle was in 2006 when WWE is letting him go, I mean, he wasn't in the best place. He even admitted it in his Hall of Fame speech in 2017. Yep. So, I mean, him in UFC, obviously he was dealing with nagging injuries, pain pill addiction, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So joining UFC would not have helped out that at all.
No. So, I mean, I think for in multiple reasons, I think with health, most importantly, I think that was a good move for him.
All right, so next week we're going to have a huge jam-packed show. We're going to have it earlier in the week. We're going to have it before NXT. It'll be a little before the Hall of Fame, but probably coming out around the same time as the Hall of Fame, but it'll be before NXT, so it'll be our full NXT preview, our full WrestleMania preview. It'll be a chock-full show next week. I hope you can join us then, but for this week's edition, the final one, the penultimate one before WrestleMania, he's Brandon, I'm Jared. We will see you next week as the road to the WrestleMania comes to a close. This has been the Heel to the Face podcast.